friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of my Unhealthy podcast. If you've ever found yourself staring at the fridge at 10 p.m., you're wired but tired, wondering why you're anxious, foggy, and still somehow bloated after a pretty good day of eating, well, hopefully this episode will be for you. We're going to pull back the curtain on what's really happening between your gut, your brain, your liver, and why that strange triangle has so much to do with your mood, your energy, and whether you can actually focus past lunch. That's usually my struggle in the afternoon. My guest today is Jana Jamail, and she is a neuroscientist and neuro-nutritionist. I told you I was going to get somebody on the show here who really understood nutrition. So we are going to chat about all those things and more. She runs Rose Ginger, and she translates that neuroscience and nutrition research into simple, realistic, budget-aware changes for regular humans. Jana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So, of course, everybody always, I'm assuming, starts with that whole neuroscientist approach there. How do you combine neuroscientist and neuronutrition?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a unicorn. If you're not familiar with the nutrition world, typically when you're going into nutrition, you kind of pick a niche, right? So some people are like, I want to do autoimmune. Some people are like, I only want to do gut health, or I want to do heart health. And I'm the weird person who's like, I want to do brain health. And that's not normally something that's covered in nutrition master's programs.
Right.
So when I went through my program for nutrition, I got little tastes of neuroscience, and I just realized I really want to combine the two. So in order to become a neuronutritionist, you have to have some kind of education in neuroscience. But everyone I talked to said neuronutritionists don't exist. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to exist. So I went back to school to finish a neuroscience degree. And that's completely different than doing neuronutrition. So it's more of a science focus. It's way more into like the brain pathology. So having to translate that information into how to support someone with nutrition is kind of tricky. So there's a lot of translating. There's a lot of trying to figure out, how does research in rats, how does that translate to humans in nutrition? So yeah, it's a pretty deep research-based field for me. But I love it. And it's been really interesting to work with people who need help with their brain and things that are going on in mood, and be able to support them with nutrition.
Okay. So that doesn't sound like a typical career. You called yourself a unicorn already. Is this kind of a new idea of, putting the brain in connection with our health in that matter?
Absolutely. So neuronutrition, like I call it that. People do say they do neuroscience and nutrition, but combining them is something that's probably only been talked about in the last 5 years. And there's a couple people who are doing it, but as its own field, it's emerging. And there's still a lot we just don't know about how the brain and the gut connect. We only learned that we have tons of bacteria in our gut within like 20 years ago. And now we know, we might actually have some of that bacteria in our brain too. And that's only an 8-year-old idea. So there's a lot of new emerging science coming out. And some of the exciting areas are like neurogenesis, which is a debated topic for the last century. But now we know that your gut actually helps to create new neurons as well in your brain and your lifestyle and things that you're interested in learning. And then what happens if you start decreasing those lifestyle habits, and could that contribute to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease and other things? So there's a lot of really exciting new research coming out that talks about lifestyle and things like that, but they're not directly connected to nutrition. So it's kind of filtering through all the exciting things going on and realizing, this actually lives in the nutrition lens.
Right. All right. You mentioned a lot of this started about 5 years ago. Now, that puts us around the time frame of the year of our COVID. So my question is, was some scientist just kind of sitting around bored during COVID thinking, let me try to find a new way to connect these things?
Oh, so COVID's so interesting for scientists, right? Because everyone kind of was in their silo at that time. And so it's, are you working on immune? How are you still going about your funding? Your research doesn't go away. And so you are still moving things forward, but you're right. You're like in a bubble in your home. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand about COVID when it comes to research and scientists is COVID actually allowed the most scientific connection globally than any other time. It's actually how we were able to come up with that vaccination. And it's because we were all constantly online with each other. And I say we as a scientist, but I was not working on that vaccination. But everyone was connected. I mean, all the universities in London are talking to the universities in the United States, or talking to France, or talking to Germany, or talking to Australia. It was actually a 24-hour cycle of being connected. And so, yes, the researchers are kind of at home, bored, if you will, but they were actually one of the most connected populations, and just most people don't know that.
Interesting. All right. So let me ask you this about your history, because I want to find out, how in the world does somebody, I mean, nobody grows up wanting to be a neuroscientist, neuronutritionist or stuff. So what was it that either attracted you to it, or how did you end up doing this?
So when I was a teenager, my aunt had brain cancer, and she ended up passing away from it. But during that process of her having that illness, I was just learning more and more about the brain by either being in medical rooms with her, or hearing her doctors talking about it. And so I was just like, that's a really interesting organ. Like, it's so different than everything else that we know about the body. And so that really piqued my interest. And then I realized I'm really, really bad at chemistry. That's probably not the route for me. So I kind of put that down. And nutrition was kind of something I was interested in, but didn't love necessarily. So I went to my undergrad and I was like, I'm going to do international relations and economics, because that sounds like fun. I've done nothing with that. Absolutely nothing. So I graduated during like the housing crisis in 2010. So I was like, get a job anywhere. So I went into the corporate world and worked for an online education company, and I just absolutely hated it. And so, and corporate's just, it wasn't very fun to me. And so I quit my job and right. Yeah. So I quit my job and I decided maybe I'll give this nutrition thing a go. I'll take a couple classes. And then after taking more and more and more, my husband was like, so this is never ending. So like, what's the game plan here? And I was like, I'm just going to go get my master's. I'm going to go do this. And I loved nutrition. Wow. I fell in love with it. I could not get enough. But that's when I was like, oh, but I never really forgot about the brain. And anytime I could write about anything for my master's program, I kept going back to the brain. And so I was like, I should probably go into that too, because I have a feeling I'm going to start chasing classes again. So I went and did another postgraduate diploma for neuroscience.
Yeah, it sounds like you loved education.
Actually, I hated it until I got into nutrition. Okay. Hated education.
All right. Now, side question here. Do you like cooking?
Yes and no. I have a 7-year-old who has autism and ADHD, and I'm pretty much told all day long how much my cooking sucks by him. So after a while, it wears on you. So I used to love cooking, and now I'm like, you know what? You and your dad can cook together. But I love baking a lot. That's something I really enjoy doing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do watch the Food Channel, and I always get amazed because I always equated baking with things like cake and stuff like that. But, they have the Great Bake Off Championship. Baking, I don't know. There's something about baking. Now, we're trying to convert to be that air fry, family, but it's not working. But
like, you don't like what it makes, or you're not enjoying the process?
So, you had to ask, didn't you? So the hardest thing is, air fryers are, first of all, they're not really that big. So It's not like you can make a whole family meal out of it. And there's not a ton of creativity you can do. It's pretty much you take what you can get in a bag and dump it in and air fry it instead of throwing it on, the skillet on the stove or something like that. So the hardest part is finding those interesting, enticing recipes that work in an air fryer. And of course, to do it right, you got to have at least 2 or 3 air fryers, which that's always fun, taking up all that counter space.
I feel like we've gotten in over our heads with too many air fryers.
We have. And then there's all these other things. I mean, cheese and crackers, you got to have a big kitchen now if you're going to actually cook at home.
This is true. Yeah. Yes.
All right. We got off a little bit there.
Sorry.
So let me do this before we go too much further down the science road. I've heard you when I was, listening to some other stuff, you've talked about the wellness industry often overcomplicating nutrition. There's a thought in my head that says, okay, if you're going to be a neuroscientist and talk about nutrition, you're going to overcomplicate it. So how do you make it simple now that you have all of this education and all these degrees behind you?
Yeah. So I don't typically present all of the science to most people because they would look at me and be like, I'm out. I don't want to do this. I present little small tweaks that I know make huge scientific impacts biologically. So like for a lot of people, there's the whole protein conversation, which that is a soapbox in and of itself. But just when are we eating protein? Are we getting too much? What kind are we getting? Things like that.
Okay.
How to shape your plate.
I've only heard that we don't get enough protein. Is that like a big
have you been
debate?
to the gym lately? Because you might disagree with that if you start walking around and being like, you have too much protein. You have too much protein.
No, I'm at that age where I think I'm too old for the gym. I'm done.
I get that.
I spent the first half of my life working out, playing ball, hitting the gym. And I'll say this, when I hit 48 and was guarding a 24-year-old in basketball, I said, I'm done. So no more gym for me. Okay, I do get your point. Yes, gym folks love protein.
Mm-hmm. And truly, people who are in the gym all the time, when they come to me, they're like, all I eat is cheese and eggs and beef jerky. Why can't I lose weight? I'm like, have you heard of an apple? I don't know. Maybe we could try that out. So see, like that didn't take a whole lot of neuroscience, right?
Okay.
Just little simple tweaks.
Right.
But it's things like that, just doing small things to get the most bang for your buck. Even just showing people, I love the Canada Plate food guide. If you look that up on Google, it shows you how to shape your plate and what your plate should look like. Super simple, really easy, takes the guesswork out of a lot of stuff. And that does all the neuroscience and nutrition work for me. So it's little things I like to introduce so people get the most out of what they need.
Okay. Did you say Canada Plate food guide?
Yes. Canada has a food guide and it's a plate. It's an image of a plate. Half of the plate is fruits and vegetables.
We have a food guide too, don't we? We have a pyramid.
We like Canada's better.
Oh, okay.
So it'll show you like half your plate is fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate is complex carbohydrates, and a quarter of your plate is lean protein. That's an easy way to show people if you're confused, this is a good starting place.
Okay. I just pulled up on my screen. I know people can't see it, but I'm looking at it and okay. It's a lot of nuts on there.
That's a lot of protein, omega-3s, omega-6s. See, you don't want to know all those things. But
I want to look at a plate and go, ooh, does that look good?
Well, the point isn't to sell you on a recipe. The point is to show you how to shape your plate.
All right. So the Canada Food Guide plate, half the plate, as you said, vegetables and fruits. So they can be fresh, frozen, canned, or dried.
Absolutely.
1/4 is whole grain foods, bread, pasta, brown rice, quinoa. Yeah. See, I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to eat it.
That's okay.
1/4 proteins, beans, lentils, tofu, nuts, plus fish, eggs, lean meats, yogurt. And then water is promoted as the main drink of choice.
Yes.
Back to water.
Tea, coffee, there's water in all of those, sparkling water.
Yeah,
You can
but
get creative.
can I ask a question? We're going to go way off course here. So I've heard
Sure.
that part of our problem with people not getting enough water is that water is more expensive than soda.
It can be. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, are
Yes.
we really that ridiculous?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Soda's more profitable than water.
Well-
Soda's more addicting. You want more every day. There's caffeine in it. I know people who are like, I have to have 9 Diet Cokes a day. I'm like, wow, okay. We'll have a conversation about that.
Wow.
I don't know anyone who's like, I just got to get 9 bottles of water in. I can't live without it. Right?
No, because I mean, listen, there are people that have a specific taste. They want a specific brand, all of that. But the debate for me that I've always seen is how much water, because I read a story a while ago that somebody died from drinking too much water. Now, granted, they drank it too fast. Let's qualify that. But we have a problem drinking enough water.
It's true. And so the thing that gets confused the most for everyone between nutrition and hydration and lifestyle is everything's really individualized. So the amount of water I need is not going to be the same amount of water as an athlete. They're going to need more water than I am. They're also going to need probably more electrolytes than I am. So everything's more off of like, what's your lifestyle? Where do you live? What's your climate like? How much time do you spend outdoors? Right. So it's not like everybody should have exactly 40 ounces of water every single day. That's not necessarily true, right?
I thought it was 64.
That too, right? Or is it 90? I don't know. It depends on that athlete. I'm not sure. Also, do you live in Florida or Texas or Arizona? Do you live in New York? It's going to change, right?
Yeah.
So it's more individualized. So I could not tell you like everybody has to have exactly 50, 64, 70, whatever it is. All I tell people is like, try and sip on something throughout the day. More likely than not, you're going to get more than what you need.
Okay. All right. So now that we've butchered that discussion,
I thought I did very well. Thank you.
No, you did. I got us off track. So how do you take all that education, that information, and how do you actually apply it now to people like me, people like the listeners? What do we do with that?
So a lot of people who come to me aren't people who are like, hey, everything's going absolutely great in my life. I just need a small tweak. That's not someone who's looking for a neuronutritionist. Normally, someone who finds me is, my stomach is killing me. Like, I can't go to the bathroom, or I'm going too much and I'm miserable. I have all this brain fog. I have so much anxiety. I feel depressed. I'm irritable. The layers of symptoms are high. So typically that person is coming to find me. And then with them, I just start on like foundational things of like, okay, first thing we're going to do is address your gut, because that is your second brain, and that directly connects to your brain and your emotions and how you're feeling. So typically when we stabilize the gut, your mood follows. And then we just kind of keep going and like knocking off a lot of the symptoms that associate with body groups. But yeah, my first goal usually with people is to try and hit their biggest pain point and try and improve it within like 10 days.
Okay. I want to go back, because when you said the way that people find you, some of the things that you said, my stomach hurts or stuff like that, we usually go to the doctor for stuff like that. And so are doctors referring people to you, or are these people that they've been to the doctor can't help, let me find something else?
Usually it's people who have been to the doctor, and it's not that the doctor doesn't help, it's that all their labs look normal. So let's say your stomach really hurts and you have a leaky gut, which means your gut lining is not stabilized. Things are coming through that aren't supposed to be coming through your gut lining. Can't do a colonoscopy and find that. There's a lot of things you can't find physically, but on certain labs, like a GI map or a stool test, like I can know if certain bacteria are not in line, and that's likely leading to this, right? A lot of doctors don't run a lot of that because insurance doesn't cover it. So it's mostly people who are spending time in a doctor's office and being told your symptom might be this, but everything looks normal. And it's rinse and repeat. They've been told that by multiple doctors and they're like, I am so fed up. I just want someone to tell me what is wrong. And they end up finding me. And that's where I'm like, yes, your symptoms are real, even if your labs look normal.
Okay. Another side question. So if I have a big belly with no real reason, because I don't drink a lot, I'm not really fat, could I have a leaky gut? And how do I tell? I mean, a leaky gut doesn't hurt, right?
It'll hurt. So it's things that you would normally eat. You cannot eat them anymore. You were like, I've always had onions. Everything's fine. Now you are intolerable to having it. And then it's a list of things though. So it's like coffee upsets your stomach. You can't have a salad. You can't have onions. You can't have garlic. You can't, like, it becomes a really long list. And you're like, how did I get here? I've always been able to eat these things. That's more indicative of a leaky gut.
All right. So I guess that's not it. I don't have any, I have no pain when I eat certain foods. Okay.
I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. All right. So now let's try to, I mentioned this at the intro and I want to make sure we get to it. The little triangle, the brain, the gut, and the liver. How does that all work? And is that a connection you made, or is that a connection that the scientist community made? How did that come about?
So that's definitely a scientific community. I've just done a good job of taking what is nutrition research that is separate from neuroscience research and being able to combine it. But so for anyone who doesn't know, your stomach is called your second brain. The reason is your absorption of vitamins, minerals, all of that directly affects your brain. Also, you have this thing called a vagus nerve. So it literally, your gut connects to your brain and literally talks all day long. If you don't believe it, look up some research about what happens when surgeons cut the vagus nerve and what happens to people when their gut and their brain are not talking to each other all day long. It's fascinating symptoms. Anyway, okay, so gut talks to your brain all day long. You have bacteria that travel that as well. So it's affecting the health of your brain from your gut and your brain. Also, your gut helps to create neurotransmitters. So if you've heard of dopamine, if you've heard of serotonin, that's also created in your gut as well. So there's a whole layer of gut.
Dopamine
brain.
is created in the gut?
Some of it is, yes.
Because it's always been associated with the brain. Getting that dopamine
until
hit.
About 15 years ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, so you do have neurotransmitters being created in the gut as well. So that's how, if you have leaky gut or if you have all this gut pain, you do have mood changes. You do feel off. It is weird. The other thing a lot of people don't know is that, so your liver's for detoxification. So it's really, really important for your body. Also, your liver creates something called bile. Bile is really important for breaking down food, but it's also really important for the immune system in your brain and all the little cells that keep your brain healthy. So we call them glial cells. Their specific ones are called astrocytes if people really want to get into the neuroscience. But bile specifically keeps those healthy. Those help you not have depression. They keep your brain really healthy, and they're like an antidepressant almost for your brain. So if your liver's not functioning well, you might lean more depressive and you may not feel as well. And then your bile is really important for your gut health as well. So it's this little triad that all three are so important, and you want all three functioning really well. And the brain does a great job, but if your gut and your liver are off, your brain's almost helpless there. So we got to make sure it's getting the support it needs.
Okay. And all three have to work together. So if one's off, they're all off.
Yeah, a little bit. But if your gut's off, your brain's going to be off.
Okay. But I mean, how does that present itself to us regular people? I mean, what types of symptoms? I mean, you mentioned brain fog. Most of us, listen, I've heard brain fog mentioned a lot. I'll be honest, I don't know what brain fog means.
Well, then consider yourself really lucky. Someone who's had it, oh, they know. They're like, I can't work the normal way that I would normally work. I can't remember things the way that I was normally remembering. It's almost like you're disconnected
Okay.
from yourself a little bit. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's one way, being really irritable where you're like, everything is making me mad. I don't know why everything is making me mad. That's an indicator. Anxiety, if you're like, I all of a sudden have crippling anxiety and there's nothing going on, that can be something. So we also tune into mood, but like memory is also a thing. Sleep is also an area we look at for anyone who, we like to say wired and tired. What that means is you're exhausted at the end of the day and you are ruminating on a thought and you can't put it down. So a lot of people think, oh, those are mental health issues. And yes, they absolutely are. And we want to make sure your gut and your liver are not contributing to those symptoms occurring and getting worse.
All right. So I'll be honest, a lot of people that I talk to, they guess a lot. When you have those symptoms, well, it might be this, it might be that. As a scientist, I imagine that you don't like to guess. So what are the ways to kind of go about figuring things out if we have some of those symptoms?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is we get a whole history of symptoms and we get a progression. So I want to know, like, when did these things start? Did anything happen in your life that created this situation? Things like that. Like some people get the flu and all of a sudden we have this crazy brain fog. Like, okay, now I know something's going on. That's just an example. It does not mean if you get the flu, you're going to have brain fog. Just saying. This is not a one size fits all. But I love lab tests. So a lot of the lab tests I use look at mitochondria. We don't have to get into mitochondria because that's a whole other tangent, but it looks at mitochondria. So I look at how is your body making energy? How is it using the energy that it's making? I also love to run a GI map. So I love knowing what kind of bacteria do we have? Do we have inflammation in the gut? Do we have yeast in the gut? Do we have an overgrowth going on? A lot of times also we can see autoimmune illnesses through that as well. So we do some testing to see what's not going well, what's not working. Is there a deficiency or an overgrowth somewhere? And then we look at energy production and then we can start forming an idea of what's going on.
Okay. So I have to ask, because you talked a lot about lab tests. You're based in Austin, Texas, right?
Yes.
So I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So it's not like I can run to you and get those tests. If one of my listeners reaches out to you and says, hey, I'd like your help, but where do I go to get these tests?
So I can order tests as a nutritionist. So what I do is if you're like, I really want a GI map, great. I order the GI map. It is sent to you. You do it in the comfort of your own home and
Really?
you mail it to the lab.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you do that? There's no equipment.
For a stool test, they send you the equipment. So you don't need all of that. For a urine test, you literally send you the equipment. You don't have to do that. If we want to check cortisol, like that's a saliva test. If there's a blood lab, all I have to do is order your lab. It automatically pulls up a CPL or a Quest Diagnostics near you. You just bring in your order, you get your labs drawn, and then they send it all to me.
Gotcha. Okay.
That does not work in Rhode Island, New York, or New Jersey, just to give you an understanding.
Okay. But those state laws are different. They don't allow that. Northeast states anyway. All right. So we are not going to have enough time to get to stuff we wanted to talk about. I'm going to ask you afterwards about coming back for another show. I won't make you answer that on air. So what is the next step? Now that we've talked about putting, the triangle together and stuff, what are the next things to do with nutrition? I mean, are there simple things that you can recommend to people, or obviously everybody's different, so there are going to be some differences there, but what are some baby steps we can take?
Yeah. So nutrition sounds exciting, but the really good work is
No,
like
it
not
doesn't.
sexy and it's super boring. Oh no, let me tell you, I mean, if we get into like the keto diet and all the specialized things, those sound exciting, right? No, we don't do that. The boring stuff is actually where the big changes happen. So tips I would recommend for people, like eat regularly. That sounds so simple. It's really hard for people. So it's eat within an hour of waking up. Make sure you eat lunch. Make sure you have a snack. Make sure you have dinner. Skipping things actually creates more problems than a lot of people think. And then if you know, like, man, I eat so many processed foods, I really don't know how to jumpstart anything, just add one thing to your day. Like add 1 cup of blueberries, add 1 apple, add one small thing, and then you can build up from that. But that's really what we do. We just try to keep it really basic and easy so people can achieve those goals in an easy way.
Okay. So no meal plans? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you asked for something simple. So no.
Well, to some people, meal plans are simple, but
I have not met anyone where they're like, you know what's great? I'm going to meal prep all day on Sunday, and this is how I want to spend my day.
Well, you can AI those things now, right?
But they won't make it for you, unfortunately.
That's true.
But yes, you can.
That is true.
If it made it for you, oh, life would be so much simpler.
Yeah. All right. So the Canada Food Guide plate. Mm-hmm. So that is a good place to start for building I'm going to say a brain and gut friendly plate, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
It also takes the guesswork out of things. If you're like, I don't really know what I should have, it's kind of simple. Like, look at that plate. Are you shaping your plate like that? If not, maybe just try and get a little closer.
Okay. Now, the one thing I've heard, and I know we've always talked about it, people talk about eating on the outside of the grocery aisle, but a lot of the frozen foods are in the inside, in that frozen section there. Is there anything special about the frozen items? Now, granted, not your Swanson meals. I'm talking about the fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't know is that the nutrients actually get frozen into all of that food. So you're getting the exact same nutrients you would get as if it was fresh. And in some instances, you're getting more because it's frozen immediately. It's like flash frozen upon being picked. I highly recommend frozen over fresh for a lot of people. So it doesn't go bad. You can have it on hand. You can steam it. You can do whatever you want with it. And then you don't have to worry about like, oh, I just spent $15 on kale and it's wilting. That's great for my life. Like you can get frozen kale instead if you want to. Most people don't want kale, but that's okay. Maybe it's broccoli instead. Same thing with fruit though. I know a lot of people who are like, I really want to have fruit, but maybe your berries are wilting and they're molding and you're like, I just bought these strawberries. These were $9. Do frozen strawberries, put it in a smoothie instead, make it into popsicles instead. So doing things where like you're getting more bang for your buck. And then you can also do things if you want to shop the inner aisles, like getting dried beans. They last longer, more shelf stable. You can soak them overnight and then you can use them in soups, stews, stir fries, whatever you want. But things that will last longer. There's a lot of ideas that like everything has to be fresh. That's not necessarily true.
Okay. I'm going to shift gears here and ask you one last question. Now that you've taken the route that you've taken, you're the unicorn. Of course, a lot of the places where we get our information is going to be YouTube, our friends, all of that stuff. What are some of the biggest, I guess, misconceptions that our wellness industry is pushing out there right now?
If you ever hear about a supplement being a magic bullet, take a step back and pause.
Okay, that's every other commercial, isn't it?
I know. That's why I said that. If you think juicing is going to detox everything and it's going to be the key to your weight loss, take a step back and pause. Anything that sounds too good to be true, especially with nutrition or in the wellness industry, it's likely too good to be true. So a lot of people will hear, yeah. And the other thing is, if you want to start something that's like a botanical, maybe you heard like, oh, I've heard berberine is so good for my heart health. I want to start that. Botanicals are as potent as pharmaceuticals. So I don't recommend just starting something because you got excited about it and you saw it online, because you might not actually know what the side effects are and you have no idea what the dosing is for it.
Okay. When you say just as potent, meaning that you can overdo it?
Absolutely. So like berberine, for example, that's an antimicrobial. So that's like taking an antibiotic and clearing out your gut all the time. And you're going to have issues that, oh, it might look good for your heart from a commercial or from something on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, but it could have some pretty big consequences. So don't just jump into the botanical world if you don't know what you're doing.
Okay. Now, when you say botanical world, let's clarify that a little bit, because right now I'm thinking about all the green stuff that have been out there where they're making the green shakes and the green pills. Explain botanicals for me.
So anything that's like a single ingredient plant. So milk thistle, berberine, dandelion root, artichoke leaf, things like that.
Mushrooms.
That's what we call botanicals. So because it's a pill that's a plant, but a lot of people think like, oh, it's just a plant. It'll be totally fine. It's gonna it's natural. That's a very potent amount of that plant. So you really want supervision in using any of those before just diving into them.
Is green barley in that category? Is barley a plant? I don't know. I should have looked.
Barley is a plant, but that's a little bit different.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Why is it different?
So it's not going to have the same properties as something like berberine, milk thistle, like the laundry list I just kind of gave you of like those botanicals. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm confused.
Oh, well, that's not good.
We'll figure it out. That's just me, because I'm thinking about all those green pills that they are putting on the things. So we'll come back to that.
Well, and see, with maybe just eat the greens. Maybe don't take the pills. Like I said, maybe lean into the food and not the supplement.
Okay. If you could put one message on a billboard for anybody dealing with all of these things, what would it say?
Dealing with like all of the symptoms that I was talking about?
Yeah.
Your symptoms are real just because your labs aren't.
Okay.
The amount of people who come to me so upset because no one believes them because their labs look normal, you would be shocked. That's the majority of people who walk through my front door.
Okay. All right. So I mentioned your website, roseginger.com. I assume that's the place where everybody should start. And they can go there and, you've got lab testing services. GLP-1.
I do have GLP-1 help. Yes.
Need to talk about that.
Okay.
A 7-day gut brain reset free.
Yes.
What's that?
Anyone can have that. So it's like a week of foods I would recommend if you want to kind of reset things. You don't know where to start. You don't know what to do. You download that guide. It has great things like adrenal cocktails. Like that sounds like so much fun, right? But adrenal cocktails to help kind of like calm the nervous system. You're getting enough protein. You're getting enough fruits and vegetables. Kind of takes the guesswork out of like, how should I plan my week?
Okay, nice. And of course, you can book a session with her right on the website.
Yeah, or I have a blog. It's called Chew on This. You can go on there and read all kinds of topics if you want to.
Okay, Chew on This. Very nice. All right. Well, Jana, thank you very much for coming on the show. And like I said, we're going to talk after we're done here about doing more. Okay. Any last words before we head out, before I do my wrap up?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. This was great.
Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for being a sport and putting up with my squirrel questions.
No problem.
All right, folks. That is Jana Jamail, the Rose Ginger website. And hopefully if you've been feeling like your brain is glitchy, your gut is grumpy, your energy's all over the place, hopefully she gave us some things to consider. And basically stop skipping meals. was one of the things that I got out of that. So if that hit home and you want to get more, head over to her website, roseginger.com. I'll have other contact information for her in the show notes and in her guest profile. And that's going to do it, folks. Thank you very much to Jana. And we will be back with more from the Unhealthy Podcast, helping to get you to live better and be happy. We'll see you soon. Holla.